With so much of our focus returning to the investigations that are getting closer and closer to the ex-president and his allies, it's worth a closer look at what they might be up against. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen has said that he is cooperating with multiple government agencies. Back in 2019, when he testified before Congress, Cohen insisted he was witness to multiple instances of criminality.
He was a presidential candidate who knew that Roger Stone was talking with Julian Assange about a WikiLeaks drop on Democratic National Committee emails. Mr. Trump knew of and directed the Trump-Moscow negotiations throughout the campaign and lied about it. You need to know that Mr. Trump's personal lawyers reviewed and edited my statement to Congress.
And who were the family members that you briefed on the Trump Tower Moscow project?
Don Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump. The President of the United States thus wrote a personal check for the payment of hush money as part of a criminal scheme to violate campaign finance laws. I concluded that Don Jr. was referring to that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting about dirt on Hillary with the Russian representatives when he walked behind his dad's desk that day, and that Mr. Trump knew that was the meeting Don Jr. was talking about when he said, "That's good, let me know."
Is there any other wrongdoing or illegal act that you are aware of regarding Donald Trump that we haven't yet discussed today?
Yes, and again, those are part of the investigation that's currently being looked at by the Southern District of New York.
Joining us now is Michael Cohen. He's the author of a book about his time with the ex-president. It's called Disloyal, a memoir, the true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump. He also hosts the podcast Mea Culpa. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me, Nicole.
I watched that clip today, and my first question for you is, why do you think Trump didn't pardon himself?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people have asked me that question. One would think that he would have, that there would be pocket pardons all over the place that we will ultimately find out about. Who knows? Maybe Rudy even has a pocket pardon. We just don't know about it as of yet. And I don't think that they're ready to to give their hand away, to be honest.
We watched some of your testimony, and I wonder if you can speak about how many of those threads come up in your current conversations with investigators in New York.
Yeah, I don't really understand what you mean by that. What are you asking me exactly?
Well, are you fielding questions with investigators about things that you testified to openly about Congress, or are these investigations?
Yeah, so I apologize, Nicole. I'm not. Yeah, Nicole, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of the things that I had said, prior to coming onto the show, is I don't want to talk about the investigations that I'm cooperating in right now, out of respect for those individuals that are conducting the investigation. It's unfair. I'm willing to answer your questions, but I don't want to go into the sum and substance of conversations. It's just not proper.
Fair enough. I want to ask you about the investigation that we now know more about than ever before into Rudy Giuliani. He's taking a really brazen approach the day after a raid into his home and offices. You've had your home and offices raided. And in your view, from what you experienced and what you know about what Trump's willing to do to put his neck out for anyone, what should Rudy be doing?
Yeah. First of all, if I can, I wanted to go back and to talk to you for a second about the previous block that you had on. And I want to be very clear to you and to your audience about this. One of the things that you're talking about is, of course, Marie Yovanovitch and Ukraine. That is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what they're looking for when it comes to Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and so on. And the fact that the FBI now has his cell phones, they have his computer and other information, you could rest assured that that's not specifically or that's not the only thing that they're looking for. Maybe they're going to find information that ties him to Matt Gaetz and Joel Greenberg and the requests for pardons. Maybe you're going to find communications with him and Jared Kushner regarding other people that were doing the pay-for-play pardons. I mean, maybe you're going to find that there's information with Rudy Giuliani, Bill Barr, regarding the unconstitutional remand of me back to prison. You don't know what you're going to find, because one thing, and Rudy stated it himself, so we'll see if it's true, that there are no deleted messages. He doesn't have these encrypted apps. We're going to find that all out, because the information is all sitting on his handheld devices. And if it's not the handheld device, it's on his computer and his iCloud, which, like with me, they had a subpoena for, and they already knew what Rudy was sending out. They already knew what Rudy was receiving. So if there's anything that's missing, they still have it. That's the thing about the cloud, something I don't think Rudy fully understands and appreciates. And as it relates then to your question regarding Donald Trump is already distancing himself from Rudy. Rudy has to open up his eyes. He needs to wake up and take a look at what happened to me. The first thing Donald Trump does is he deflects. I never directed Rudy through it. Of course he did, right? Nothing got done in the White House, to the same extent that nothing ever got done in the Trump organization without being directed by Donald Trump, without Donald Trump's direct involvement. So the way you saw the communications with Yovanovitch, the same way you saw communications between myself with Alan Weisselberg and Donald Trump, the recording that was played on CNN. These are all actions that are done at the direction of and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. Now, is it possible that some of the benefit was for Rudy Giuliani in terms of financially? Of course it was. Why did Donald Trump go along with it? Because Rudy wasn't charging him legal fees. And if he was, he knew Donald wasn't going to pay for it because Donald doesn't pay for anything.
Michael, you said tip of the iceberg, so I'm gonna stay on the iceberg with you. Do you think that Donald Trump benefited financially? No, I welcome it. Thank you for watching the first vlog. You would have been welcome. Do you think that Donald Trump had a system to benefit financially from the same pro-Russian Ukrainian interests that are being scrutinized now as potentially enriching Rudy Giuliani?
Well, let me say that the entire campaign was started to be the greatest infomercial in the history of American politics. It was in order to grow the brand. It was not to win and to become the president. That was just a byproduct of luck, right? So do I think that he benefited from it? If in fact that there was some sort of a benefit that was going to come his way, maybe it was going to come through one of the children, maybe it was going to come through a real estate project, we don't know. But that's the beauty, again, of having Rudy's devices. We will know. And what he will ultimately be charged with will either corroborate this or, prove Rudy to be right. Now, let me say this, all right? Look at who Rudy Giuliani was, right? Southern District of New York, mayor, former president's personal attorney like myself. And so the FBI is not raiding his home without having extremely significant documentation, information within which to pursue this. I agree with Peter Strzok on that 100%. They don't just turn around and, decide at some point in time that we have nothing. Now, what I will say is that what information that they have may not be the big picture, but they will ultimately find it because they have enough suspicion. And they will end up, there's no way in the world that they're going to let him off the hook. It would just be a terrible thing for them and Rudy and Donald and the rest of the GOP would start to attack the system, claiming that the system is corrupt and that it was partisan, which it is not. What Rudy needs to do is like what I did. You need to take responsibility for what you did wrong. In my specific case, it was the campaign finance violation and lying to Congress, which of course I did at the direction of and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. However, I put aside the tax evasion, not true, the HELOC, not true, but I knew that they had me on campaign finance violation as well as the lying to Congress. What Rudy needs to do, and this is my speech to Rudy and to anybody else, they have him. And so if he's looking to protect himself so that he doesn't end up spending the rest of his life in prison, right, he may want to actually start to cooperate. It's something that I didn't do that I probably should have done, hindsight being 20/20.
I want to ask you about the designation of Donald Trump as individual one. Can I ask you to stay through a commercial break and ask you about that on the other side?
Of course.
We'll be right back.
The president and what he has said about you. He said about you and Mr. Fruman, Igor Fruman, I don't know those gentlemen. I don't know about them. I don't know what they do. You're saying that was not a true statement from the president?
He lied. He knew exactly who we were. He knew exactly who I was, especially because I interacted with him at a lot of events. And basically, I mean, I was with Rudy more than, 4 or 5 days out of the week. I mean, and I was in constant contact with him. So, and I was with Rudy when he would speak to the president plenty of times. I mean, so it's just ludicrous.
That was from a known associate of Rudy Giuliani's, a firsthand account of Donald Trump's selective amnesia, which we've been discussing with Michael Cohen. It seems to happen to anyone who finds themselves on the wrong side of the law in service of Donald Trump. Michael Cohen, I wonder if you can speak to how so many people in service of Donald Trump end up criminally investigated, charged, and, in your case, going to jail.
Well, why it happens, I don't know. Look, I can only talk about myself. I made mistakes. My mistakes were obviously very different than Paul Manafort, who had legitimate tax evasion, Rudy, who now has a whole slew of issues that are going to be pending, Roger Stone, who's interfering in the election as well with Julian Assange. Why? Because that's what Donald Trump gets you to do. He's like a mob boss. He turns around, tells you quietly, and no fingerprints because he has no computer, he has no email, and he tells you through code what it is that he wants you to do. And for some reason, you begin to feel like you're invincible. You start to take on Donald Trump's sort of Teflon Don posture, and it doesn't work that way because he's not there in order to protect you, including when he was president of the United States. Now he has absolutely no power. But even when he was president of the United States, it's like Michael who? It would be Rudy who? It would be Paul Manafort. What? He only worked for me for 45 days. I mean, that's Donald Trump. He denies. It's a trick that obviously he learned very well and at a very young age from Roy Cohen.
Do you think Alan Weisselberg has made the calculation to cooperate with investigators?
Only if he's got half a brain, because Alan Weisselberg was involved in every single transaction, financial, that related to the Trump organization. Every penny, not every dollar, every single penny that came into the Trump organization and every single penny that went out crossed Alan Weisselberg's desk. I mean, they used to say, Donald and Alan were like frickin' frack. So rest assured, it's not just Alan. And this is what the Southern District did to me as well. They threatened that if I didn't plead guilty, they were filing an 85-page indictment against me that was going to include my wife. Now, my wife, what? There was no chance in the world that I was going to put her at risk. And, they're going to do the same thing to Alan Weisselberg, considering both of his sons actually had relations and contacts with the Trump organization. Barry, of course, working for the Trump organization, running the rinks, both Woolman and Lasker, as well as the carousel in Central Park, and Jack through Ladder Capital, who's the only other than Deutsche Bank, the only other lending institution that gave money to the Trump organization. So, yeah, they're going to squeeze Alan very hard, and Alan is roughly the same age as Donald. And if he wants to spend, the rest of his life as well, his golden years, not, retired down in Florida at his home, but rather at Otisville or some other, camp, rest assured, just keep, ignoring what prosecutors and whether it's the district attorney or the FBI are asking you. That was just my recommendation was I think you need to start speaking and make sure you protect yourself, because here's a fact. Donald Trump will do nothing for anyone other than himself, and he will not protect them unless it benefits him. And in this specific case, there's no way to protect Donald from himself.
He was named individual number one, Donald Trump was, in your sentencing papers. Do you think that the law will ever catch up with him? Do you think he'll be criminally charged?
One can only hope, right? Why I should have been charged and incarcerated for Donald Trump's dirty deeds is still something that haunts me. It haunted me every day while I was in Otisville. One of the things that I had said very early on, I said it to Stephanopoulos on ABC, that I would not allow history to remember me as the villain of Donald Trump's story. It is about high time that Donald Trump be held responsible for his own dirty deeds, his own actions, and stop hiding behind people like me, or now it'll be Rudy or Alan Weisselberg or any other one of the 100 people that, for some unknown reason, we should all have our head examined, we're protecting him and protected him to our own detriment.
Let me ask you, since you know him and you understand the sort of sociopathic way his brain works, what is his incentive structure for perpetuating a big lie that killed law enforcement officials? He likes to align himself with law enforcement. They were mutilated by his own supporters at the Capitol. Do you see him as looking at it as sort of pride that his supporters will even mutilate law enforcement officials for him? Or what do you think he relishes out of what his supporters did in service to him on January 6th?
Well, that's a great question. So Donald Trump needs the adulation of the crowd the way that you need oxygen to breathe. And it's very sad because instead, when he rowdied up that crowd and he turned around and told them, you go, and I will meet you there, that to me was the very first telltale that he wanted them to attack the Capitol. And what he did, because he's a coward, he got his Secret Service to get him back to the White House. He went straight up to the residence. He turned on the 3 televisions sitting in the room, in his bedroom, to the various different channels. He sat there and watched, and I could visualize it. He would sit there and watch the various different channels and see all of the crowd wearing the MAGA hats, wearing these MAGA 2020 capes, wearing the Trump 2020, flags, attacking the police officers, attacking the Capitol. And he took a pride in it that this paramilitary group was doing his bidding, because people don't realize this. And Nicole, I've said it before, but I really think it's important that people understand this. Donald Trump never wanted to be president of this country. He wanted to be its dictator. He wanted to be an autocrat, just like Vladimir Putin, like Kim Jong-un. He wanted to be like Mohammed bin Salman, a monarch, the United States of Trump. And when he saw the civilians attacking Congress for what? The purpose of not allowing the election results to be read, he actually for a moment believed in his head that he would be able to overturn the election results, that he would be reinstated, and then the next 4 years he would do nothing but try to figure out how to stay, president for life, how to become an autocrat. And he relished in the moment as officers were hurt or killed, and innocent people lost their lives, were severely injured. I mean, he relishes in that sort of thing. No different than when he turned around and he told people, if that person starts screaming in the crowd, I give you permission to beat them up, and don't worry, I'll pay your legal fees. Well, fortunately for a lot of people that they didn't do that, because Donald Trump would never pay your legal fees. And you could take that to the bank, because I'm right now in litigation with him on the exact same topic.
Your insights about him are only reinforced by the things that we have in the public record. The tweet that says, we love you. The video that says to Congress, this is what happens when you deny a result. Your insights are invaluable. It's the first time I've had a chance to talk to you, and it was a pleasure. I hope you will come back. Michael Cohen, thank you for spending some time with us today. Have a great weekend.
Anytime, Nicole. Thank you.
Up next for us.